Blueprint for God Power by Billy Carson and Dr. B. Serious, and produced by Richard Merrick of the YouTube channel Black Magic 363. And this was an event that was live streamed on October 29, 2023. And I had signed up for it months ago because I knew how important this event would be. And so, as part of this event, Dr. B. Serious and Richard Merritt and Billy Carson provided some materials to accompany the presentation that they put on. And these free materials that accompanied this seminar, this webinar, this event are sounds and music and other reading materials that, just like God Power, Blueprint for God Power Part 1 that occurred in January of 2023, and I attended that one as well. These materials are designed to elevate the spirit, elevate the being, and elevate and enhance one's understanding of spirituality. And so I have gotten access to these materials. I've downloaded them. I haven't yet gone through them, but I look forward to examining these materials, these songs that Dr. B. Serious has put together. You know, he was a major record producer in California. And so he was associated with many artists in the rap and hip hop genres in the past. And so he knows quite a bit about sound and frequency and vibration. But he evolved over time to embrace herbalism and other aspects in terms of how one can apply spirituality as opposed to just know and understand theories and read books. And so that is what I really was looking for in this particular event, this particular seminar, was a heavy dose of applied spirituality, because many of us, we talk a lot about manifestation. We talk a lot about speaking things into existence. And yes, there is science that supports that, right? But what I say is that understanding how to apply all of that and put it into practice is where it's really at. And so Dr. B. Serious, in his presentation, he was the first speaker. He talked about different modes of operating the body, such as how to activate the thalamus gland. He also did a breakdown of what is God power, right? And so he did a great job of explaining that. And he also talked about siddhis. You know, I've talked about siddhis in one of my earlier videos, but it's good to see him go deeper into that. And he talked about language. Language is where it's at in my view. In my view, language is where it's at. And Seven Bomar of the channel Understanding, I think, would concur to some extent. But language is the gateway key to the matrix. Language is the gateway key to the matrix. And it was good to see the insights from Dr. B. Serious on how language can be used to either disempower or empower a person and bring them to the next level. So, his breakdown of how you can use words and how those words affect the cells and the body and the being, it was very well put together. But it wasn't done so it was the pie in the sky. It was done so it showed you that when you say, I allow, you bring in the forces of the universe in a much more powerful way than simply doing I am. And I am is still a great way to do affirmations. And Billy Carson is going to touch on that later in his presentation, right? And he does it in a very beautiful and impactful way. Yet, when we look at what we say to ourselves and when we speak to ourselves, right? Speak to us as an individual alone in our thoughts as well as the words we use in everyday action and everyday interactions, we see that there are ways that we can build ourselves up so that we can move forward in a more powerful way. And I also like Dr. B. Serious's touching on genes, right? We hear about epigenetics, and Billy Carson touches on epigenetics in more detail in his presentation. But Dr. B. Serious is going to make reference to how certain genes are coming online during this time. And so we turn to Billy Carson, who just recently came from Egypt. I think he brought about 160 people to him to Egypt. And he went to places that most people can't get access to, those forbidden places, right? And so he goes through different aspects of the spiritual body, the spiritual energy, the spiritual being, and he walks you through a multiverse meditation, an actual multiverse meditation. And it's very powerful. It's very powerful. There's many images that he presented along with that. And one of the materials that was presented or that accompanied this seminar, this webinar that I showed much earlier at the very beginning is what is called this Merkaba meditation. And so he also does a breakdown of sound and frequency, which is, in my view, the geometry of existence, right? And then he ties that into his own meditation, right? So you see the correlation between what Dr. B. Serious was saying with language and with cymatics, and then what Billy Carson is elucidating in terms of how you can apply these aspects and these understandings about sound and vibration and frequency and how they manifest in reality, right? He shows a great example from another YouTuber out there who shows how you can use actual sound equipment and show a visual representation of these sounds. It's not computer graphics, it's actual real substance material, water and salt. And it's so amazing how they correlate to the sacred geometries, right? There are at least 12 sacred geometry figures that you can find on Google right now if you search for sacred geometry symbols, right? So these symbols were incorporated at the outset of Billy Carson's multiverse meditation that he walked us through, and it was very powerful. Not only the geometries that were materialized and visualized on the screen, but also how we had other images from the universe and from experience of nature, the sounds, the sky, the stars, and how the celestial elements and the cosmos can then harmonize with one's being. And so it was very profound the way he did that. This is an 11-hour seminar, and I sat through the entire thing very pleasantly, receiving this download across the universe and across the Akashic records from these avatars of knowledge and spirituality, to be enriched, to see how different elements of spirituality can harmonize together. And so through these 11 hours, right, there was a tremendous amount of transfer of information, applied information from the inner eye to the outer world in which we exist and operate. The Om sound that Billy Carson is famous for, with his own particular rendition of it. It was great to see that at various parts and spots during his presentation. And so I thought this was a absolutely fabulous event. And so when we are looking at affirmations, right, 111 affirmations, Mr. Carson read out 111 affirmations that would elevate you. And we were asked to read them or repeat them along with them. And so I repeated all 111 affirmations, and I did make real time edits in some of them to incorporate some of Dr. B. Serious's spin on affirmations, where I switched some I ams to I allow, right? And so I did some variation there, but it was a very powerful experience. And then we started to look at meditation again, flame meditation, and I learned some aspects about how you can use the candle to actually center and intensify one's own energy in relation to existence and the universe and consciousness. And it was absolutely profound, the discussion on the flame meditation. So I thoroughly enjoyed the interplay between Dr. B. Serious and Billy Carson, the information that they each present to people individually in their own YouTube channels and their own shows is absolutely fantastic. But when you bring them together, you get a dynamic duo. And of course, the 7 sacred prayers that is part of this series, they incorporated it at the end of the presentation. And so Billy Carson headlines the 7 sacred prayers and does an absolutely phenomenal job. And so his particular affirmation resonates with many people, as does Dr. B. Serious's. And the I allow approach to manifestation is extremely powerful, in my opinion. And so I really enjoyed this again. And I also enjoyed how they not only talked about spirituality, but applied spirituality when we're talking about the world of finance. And so we're going to look at that in just a moment. But Dr. B. Serious's particular affirmation is absolutely stunning. And so, again, you have these 2 great individuals who put a lot of effort, and through 11 hours of discourse and sharing brought a lot of valuable information to everyone. And then we had a discussion of cryptocurrency, the financial matrix, how we can use money as a representation of energy exchange to elevate our course through this experience of life and existence and experience. And there was a really great concept and point of view expressed about how woke and being conscious does not necessarily mean you have to live a life broke. And so being successful financially and being well heeled in terms of how you approach money and finance and material items and material things, there's been a misunderstanding in the broader world of spirituality about these things that have disempowered people. And through Blueprint for GodPower, you find that empowerment and discover it once again. So this was a great event for me, as I said, and you can still access the Blueprint for GodPower, parts 1 and 2, through the various websites from Billy Carson and Dr. B. Serious. Billy Carson's website is Forbidden Knowledge, and then Dr. B. Serious's website is elevationtime.com, and I think blackmagicuniversity.com, if that's the right web address, that's Richard Merritt's, and I think you can get a copy of the Blueprint for GodPower from those websites.